tranquility is a city of safety and beauty. Crime, disaster, disunity are forgotten relics. But perfection has a price. Everyone must wear a device that measures their emotions. Those most positive and cheerful rise through the social ranks of society, while those that don't meet the standard are banished. Ember is an empath who can feel other people's emotions. When her mother dies, she's set on a dangerous course where she must choose between duty and freedom. With the help of Will, the city's hero, and Xander, an exiled outlaw, she soon learns that Tranquility's leader holds a dark secret.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Phoebe from Alternative Twist Radio. We have a brand new segment today with Author Spotlight. This is Tanya Ross. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm so excited to talk about my novels with you.
Yes, and I'm so excited to have you. You know, when I was reading your excerpts from your books, it's Rising Up, and I think you also sent me, I saw one for Facing Off, your second book.
Yes.
I fell in love right away with your main character, Ember. She was kind of dark, spunky, you know, she was starting out and discovering about herself. And I love your sci-fi novels. The way you wrote, it really spoke to me. I could just envision in my mind's eye like I was watching a movie when I was reading your book. And that to me really grabbed my attention. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to find out what's going on. What's going on with Ember? What's going to happen with her? You know, so I'm glad that you connected with us and you agreed to this interview.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you love my characters. I love them too. I even dream about them sometimes. So that just lets you know how deeply they're embedded in my subconscious.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I used to be a teacher. In fact, I taught middle school for 32 years, a very long time. I really loved it because the kids are just so fun. They're spontaneous. You just never know from one day to the next or from 1 hour to the next what's going to happen. So I really enjoyed that. I taught English, which is natural, right? I taught history, a program called AVID for college-going kids, and then I was the activities director too. So that took a lot of my time for all those years. And I have a family too. I have there are 4 of us. I have 2 grown children and a great husband and a beautiful golden retriever.
It's really important, I feel, to have the support of your family and the love too. So I'm glad that you have supportive people around you to encourage you, you know, to make such a career change too, you know, from being a teacher to an author. You know, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. They are really instrumental in my being able to do this with ideas and support and all of that. So I appreciate them.
That's good. You talked about being a writer, switching careers from being a teacher to a writer. So what are your book titles and what are your books about? You talked a little bit about falling in love with your characters, you dream about them, and who are your books targeted for?
Okay, well, I have 2 books in series. This is the first one. Oops, it disappears on my background, but this one is Rising Up. The second one in the series is Facing Off. They are sci-fi. They are meant for young adults. They are for basically the student population that I used to teach, although they're a little bit more sophisticated than a 6th grader or a 7th grader might want. So by calling them young adult, they're really more for 8th grade up. But so many adults have read them too and have loved them because of the characters and the themes and the imagery that is in these novels. So people can truly relate to the characters. There's always one that's a favorite, like you with Ember. So that makes me really happy to be able to get these novels out for people that love them.
I'm glad I fell into your work because, and I think that's what it was. It gave me a nostalgic feeling back when I was really heavy into reading when I first discovered and fell in love with reading. Sci-fi was one of my first, any kind of other books, murder mysteries, yes, sci-fi especially. And the post-apocalyptic dystopian future, love that. I don't know why. Movies and books, it seems to be, close to my heart for some reason. So as a writer, you must want to influence people. What are some themes in your novels?
My novels are really full of themes, and that's why I think they're so important for people to read, because it's not just a piece of fiction. These stories have the whole idea about what makes a perfect life, what is true happiness. They address those questions. It addresses the whole, emergence of social media and the influence that technology plays in our lives, and how social media can be totally manipulated to actually be a control piece by a particular government or a group of people or even single people. So I think those are super big. In addition, my characters face astronomical odds as they're trying to change the system, and they have to step out of their comfort zone. So I think one of the themes too is that you have to do what's right. You have to be yourself, in spite of what other people tell you is acceptable or not acceptable. And then you have to have the courage to act on that. You have to have the courage to be who you feel you are meant to be.
I can definitely appreciate that theme about social media and technology being so big. And over the last, since it's really, I think that since the last 20 years, but it's really gotten worse the last 10 years, I feel, encouraging and also changing the narrative of the people who are really into social media. And I'm one of them, absolutely. Especially, the last 2 years, we were all stuck at home, nothing else to do but be online. How can we connect online, connect to different people online, and connect to the news and things like that? So it can be good and it can be bad. And I myself, I felt the good and bad, but you have to fight through the negative stuff so it doesn't affect your mental health, because then you're like, oh my gosh, this is on the news, blah, 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 and it starts to mess with you. So I can really relate to your theme in your book and how you have to fight through it, be who you are, and do what's right, and listen to your gut feeling, your inner voice. I can definitely appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yes.
You're retired and you just started writing. So how does that make your journey more inspirational?
I think it's inspirational because most people, when they retire, they're kind of thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to kind of chill. I'm going to sit in a boat on a lake, and that's fine. That's fine. And sometimes I get accused by people that I'm really not maximizing my retirement at all by being an author, because an author is, it's more than just a little part-time thing. It takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time. But I think the message is that at any point in your life, you can do something that you've aspired to do, no matter how old you are. And I just think that, by being at the point where I have the knowledge and I have the expertise that I probably wouldn't have had sooner in my life, is a great opportunity for me to maximize that and to do it. I'm definitely an older author, and some people would go, really, you're starting that at this point in your life? But I just think, there are a lot of authors that started late. Laura Ingalls Wilder started late. Mark Twain started late. There's a whole slew of them. Bram Stoker. I mean, all of the really greats, when you look, there's no young quality. There's no time when it's okay versus not okay to go for your dreams. So that's what I just decided, that it was time for me, and I was really looking forward to my retirement in order to be able to do this.
You mentioned the ideas from your books. Where do they come from? How do you get inspired with the plots and ideas?
Well, first of all, as I'm writing, a lot of my inspiration comes from music. In fact, if you were to open the cover of one of my books or the ebook, you would see that there's actually a link there to a soundtrack for each book. There's a song for every chapter because those songs inspire me. Like they pluck ideas out of my head in weird ways. But my real inspiration came from a very personal situation. I have a son who's on the autistic spectrum. He has something called Fragile X syndrome, and it's very, very hard for him to control his emotions. He's 34 years old, but we have worked really, really hard with him, teaching him how to, maintain calm and how to be, optimistic and happy even when things don't go his way. And I think that is where my subconscious took this book, because in this world that I created, the people have to be happy. They're monitored with a wrist bracelet, and they earn points based on their emotions, and their emotions have to be positive. So anytime something goes wrong for them, they still have to be positive people, and they still have to kind of pull themselves up out of that emotional slump. So as you can see where that might have come from in my own life, I'm dealing with that on a day-to-day basis with my son. And then another really interesting thing happened to me probably about 15 years ago. I was still teaching. A company called us on the phone, and you'll relate to this, I'm sure, Phoebe. There was a ratings company. I don't think they're still around anymore, but the company was called Arbitron. And Arbitron was a ratings company. In other words, they were the ones that kept track of who was listening to what stations on the radio, who was watching what TV shows, and so on. And I always wondered how they figured that out. But then I knew, because they called our family and they said, look, we want to have you guys participate in ratings. And all you have to do is carry this little device with you. It looks like kind of like a garage door opener. And you carry it around from morning until night, and it will pick up all the radio waves, all the TV waves, and it'll send it to a giant computer. And then we know what people are watching and listening to. And we will pay you to do this. So our whole family signed up, and we all got something it wasn't big money, but maybe $40-50 a month just to carry around this little device. And you might be wondering, okay, so how does that relate to this novel and the plot? I thought to myself, what would happen if this little device that I was forced to carry, sort of, if it picked up other things? What if it could tell how I was feeling as I went through my day? And right there, the plot was born. And so I just carried that with me for all these years. And then it was time to put the novel together. And I'm I've got it. I know exactly what I want to do.
My goodness. When you're telling me that story, I got chills in my bones. Oh my gosh, how are they tracking? Are they listening? You get that feeling wow. And you know what? That's how as a writer, you can pull that kind of energy, and just from your words expressing that, and I just already want to find out. I want to read the whole book. I want to find out what's going on and how your plot, grew and it increased, crescendo, decrescendo, things like that. And So it really pulls me in, and I know the people who watch this and are they want to find out too, because it's the same thing. They want to find out what is your story, what's your plot that you're thinking about. It's very, very gripping.
Well, and keep in mind, Phoebe, that this was long before we had things like our cell phones, which seem to listen to everything we say anyway.
Right.
And things like Siri and those kinds of things that have become so invasive. It's not that far off the plot in my book to normal everyday life. And yet this is a dystopian fictional story. So yeah, it definitely has some overlying things with reality.
I've seen so many movies that were written in the past, obviously, and then when they come out, it's like, whoa, how did they know? It's more real reality than it was fiction, especially the timing. It's amazing. So you're touching close to the heart, and I feel like it's very relatable to the audience that you want to target it to. Absolutely. You talked about your book being a dystopian sci-fi genre. So why did you choose the genre, and what makes your books different from others in the same genre?
I was first introduced to dystopian literature when I had to teach a book called The Giver by Lois Lowry to my middle school kids. It was a required text, and I had never read anything in that genre before. And it just blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting because it touches on so many themes. And, it's so serious underneath this fictional story. So I appreciated that story just because it was the first step into that whole domain. And then after that, of course, we saw things come out like The Hunger Games and Divergent and some of these other things. And I was fascinated. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just something so cool to be able to write about a place that has turned things upside down. It was intriguing to me. So I couldn't wait to dive in and try that out on my own to see whether or not I could create something as equally riveting for people to read. So that's why I chose it. And as far as being different, I cannot really compare this book to anything else out there on the market. It is so unique with the characters being who they are and the things that they have to go through in order to understand what has been happening in their society. It's just very, very different than your typical dystopian saga. So yeah, it's pretty deep.
You spoke of The Hunger Games. I love those movies. I didn't read the books, but and it's always true. The books are always better than the movies, no doubt. All the books and movies that I've read and watched, I've always go back. Man, they should have just stuck to the book. Why did they leave that out in the movie? Like, what? That's so different. What are they? So it's always true. The book is so much better because there's so much detail, and everyone who reads the book is their perspective is different. So they could see, read chapters and feel a totally different way as opposed to the next person. So it's really based on their perspective. And that's what I love about reading books.
Yes, yeah. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, because a movie can influence you too, but not in the way that a book does. It's just a different kind of piece of your soul.
Absolutely. So speaking about your book, why don't we, I'll go ahead and read chapter 1 from Rising Up. How's that?
Sounds great.
Okay. So chapter 1 of Rising Up. And this is your first book, right?
Yes.
Yeah. On a perfect day in a perfect place with practically perfect people, even dreams should be perfect. At least that's how it seemed in tranquility for everyone but Ember Vanetta. Ember's dreams were more real than fantasy. The moment she fell into a deep sleep, she felt herself rise to the ceiling, sensed a force pulling her out of her body into what was another time and place. independent of hour and matter. Its vivid imagination and physical awareness pulled at her mind in a tug of war. The dreams robbed her of rest, and even though her required levels of happiness peaked each day, an inner nagging voice reminded her, "You'll never be pretty or truly happy if you don't get your beauty sleep." Those negative thoughts always seemed to intrude. Ember had always known she was different. She felt everyone's emotions, not just her own, and that was enough of a burden. But the dreams were horrible. Her constant midnight companion was the same drama night after night. The nightmare always began with her running as fast as she could. A sinister someone chased her, her heartbeat the beacon leading him to her. She knew he pursued her because she possessed a special ability, rare and secret, and it was this that her assailant craved. Her frantic footsteps echoed like cracked ice through a gilded building with cold marble floors, her pursuer's breath on her neck. She dodged mammoth books with leathery rainbow covers flying by. She reached out over and over to grab the slippery books, knowing instinctively a book can save her, but found her hands grasping only air. Finally, she melted straight into one, through its cover, landing deeply into its pages, which fanned out to cover her with safety. Yet her black-clad caped hunter still leaned over her, reached through, and impossibly pulled her, with one jeweled hand, out of her warm cocoon. He shoved her into a golden cage suspended in space. "I know you," she thought. Yet she searched his face, unable to determine his identity. Without warning, her cage broke free, its pieces exploding and scattering into a stark wilderness, enveloping her in a new scene. She stood alone. A solitary sapling broke through the parched earth beneath her feet like an explosion. As it grew, it gathered limbs and fire, where again, Ember saw the face of her enemy. Almost like tearing up because I can feel the emotion that Ember is feeling when she wants her sleep. You know, we all need sleep. And we've all had those nightmares that just haunt us. And seems like there's no closure. And then the next scene, you know, she knows someone's hunting her. But she's running, she's trying to get away, but she can't, you know. So this little seed right there, it plants to our readers. And I feel it just gives them a little taste of what Ember has in store. So I really love it. And this is only chapter 1.
I just recently had someone, she was a former student of mine from way long time ago. I stay in touch with my students. So she was from like, oh gosh, I gotta say the late 70s. I know that's a long time ago. But she finally picked up my book and she said she cried through the first quarter of the book because the events that happened in the beginning touched her so deeply. So, you know, that's how you know that something is really resonating with your readers, when they can reach out to you and tell you those kinds of things.
And I can definitely feel that emotion too, because even just that first chapter, just those first few paragraphs, I can feel her emotion and the ups and the downs already. You know, you think she's safe. You think Ember's safe because she's in the safety of those beautiful books, and then all of a sudden, bam, you just, there's that twist already, and you don't know what's going to happen. So I love that. And within the first chapter already, it just grips you. Now, already in chapter 1, it kind of touched on this hunter. So who is the sinister person that knows, and how does the sinister person know that Ember has these special talents?
The sinister person is the leader of the city. His name is Serpio Magnus. He is known as the magistrate. So he's the one that governs the city. And he is a real control freak. He wants to make sure that everybody is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're not stepping out of line. If they step out of line, then he has ways to take care of those people. So he's a very threatening person, although in a city such as this, where everything is, perfect, the citizenry believes that he is this good man that is trying to take care of them and, kind of like a father figure. And so, in Ember's case, she doesn't know at this point who that is as she's streaming, but he becomes a real problem for her as she goes forward.
Yeah, and you spoke of the magistrate, his character. The key word that jumped out at me is controlling. And we're gonna go into one of his journal entries. So that'll kind of touch about the control factor. So that's part of one of my questions. So I'm glad you spoke of that, because I was like, yeah, he's controlling. That's the first thing. I was like, dang, chill, dude. But then I was like, wait, he's a leader, so he has to have leader qualities. So, not just be a chill, nice guy, whatever. So that's the first word that came to my mind, controlling. Yeah. So we're ready right there. You exhibit that to your readers already. Why don't we play some snippets off of your actual ebook? Your ebook called Rising Up, which was narrated by Josh Click. These are the journal entries from the villain, the magistrate, right? The leader of tranquility.
Journal entry number 5599. Her name is Ember. Such an unfortunate name. Who names their child for what's left over after a fire? Did her mother possibly have a premonition? But no matter. She'll be protected and encouraged to grow the talent she has within her. She's not yet explored her potential. Ember must develop her cognitive empathic abilities. She can then predict outcomes, distinguish truth from lies, and see the causes of emotions. She must be isolated from everyone, especially Will Varys. She is far too valuable to become emotionally attached to anyone. Unless, of course, it is me. I already feel a connection to her. Serpio Magnus, Magistrate.
That journal entry, when Josh read that, I didn't even think it was Josh. I was already listening. Oh my gosh, this is the magistrate. We're eavesdropping on his journal entry. What's he saying? So the special talent. What is the special talent that the magistrate is talking about? That and what is the connection that the magistrate is talking about? Can you expand? Also, what is the magistrate's plans for Amber? I don't know if you can, without giving out too much information.
Amber is an empath. She can feel everybody else's emotions. In addition to that, having to manage her own emotions so that her readings go through and keep her in a good place for the city, she has to worry about everybody else. So she's absorbing people around her. So one of the things that she does early on in her life is she becomes sort of reclusive. She lives with her mom, and after a few years in school, or like right after middle school, she opts out because she can't deal with all of the emotions that are just constantly flying around her. For the magistrate, when he discovers her talent, he is convinced that this is something that he can use to benefit himself and to benefit the people of the city, or so he says. He also, however, has kind of a thing for her. So you're looking at an older guy that is kind of lusting after this 16-year-old. and, desiring her in ways that is not really appropriate. So there's a lot going on here with this whole idea of wanting to get possession of her, and to be able to use her in the ways that he would like.
You can just tell from the magistrate's character how controlling he is, and how it's only basically one way or the highway. There's no other ways of doing it. It's his way. And now we'll go into the second entry, the second snippet from your ebook, 55101. So we'll listen to that, and then I'll go into my question.
Journal entry number 55101. Trying to write in my journal today, but find it has disappeared. Always on my desk. It's no more than a ghost. I have torn the library apart. I question the servants throughout the morning. They all say they know nothing. But someone has been here. Someone has stolen my very thoughts. And someone is lying. I heard a disturbance last night and checked it out. Nothing seemed amiss as I walked through. I shone a light directly onto my desktop, and my diary was there. This loss is beyond disturbing, especially when our fair city is threatened by chaos, unthinkable, an insurrection. I am in hiding. All along, I have suspected groups of individuals, and I've been able to successfully eliminate them. I was not prepared for a revolution like the one I saw today. They were the rejects of society, the ones sent to the outside for a reason. This very reason. Undisciplined sociopaths. How this happened, I do not know. They had the only weapons we keep here in Tranquility. I will remain in hiding, but will meet with my elite. From there, these realms will be apprehended and put up as examples of shame for all in our great city. We will do whatever we have to do. We will put down this insurgence and be ready to continue living in tranquility, peace. And so, I continue my diary in a new volume. It could be a sign I must make changes to our life as we know it. Serpio Magnus, Magistrate.
That audio clip was amazing. Honestly, and we touched about it already, the magistrate, he sounds very aggressive, very controlling as the leader of Tranquility. In my mind's eye, I envision the leader should be calm but firm. But of course, people then will step all over them. So can you expand on this aggressive and controlling character trait about the magistrate?
I think that he needs to be that way in order for the people to be paying attention, because they have a really difficult life. I mean, in some respects, they're living in this beautiful and perfect city, but they have so much responsibility, that they have to maintain with just their emotional control. And I think with him, it's like he has to keep these people in line if he wants to allow the city to continue at its current level as the status quo. And the people there just think he's just the most wonderful thing. So for a narcissist, which he is, that's why it's so important to him to control the people, so that he knows that he is like the end all, the go-to, the one that is providing all of the good things for these people, that he's providing them this safe and secure environment for them. And, there's no prequel written yet for this. I plan to do it in the future. But, this takes place after a massive world war, when the world is just totally destroyed. And so they've built this city for the survivors. And so the survivors do not want to have anything threatening in their lives. because of what they've been through. And so the magistrate, he's reassuring them by saying, oh, okay, we're going to control these emotions. We're going to make sure that you are safe. And so, that's kind of like his MO, his modus operandi for the whole way he approaches his leadership.
But I like the adventure part, and I like how you go into deep with the character traits and how you incorporate emotions with the plot twist. I think I haven't, that's very different to me. So our readers now, they can find your first book and your second book on your website, right? Which is TanyaRossAuthor.com. And we'll include the links, obviously. And you're also on Facebook, you're on Instagram. Facebook is fictionauthor54. And then Instagram is TJRoss_author, and we'll include the links. And your books are available. Rising Up is available on Amazon, and Facing Off is also available on Amazon. And your ebook, right, for the first book is available on Amazon as well?
Well, the ebooks are out, but also the audiobook for Rising Up is available. And I just want to do a shout out for my narrator, Josh Click. Just an amazing person to work with, and did such a great job, auditioning these people. I went through about 8 people, and I was like, and then I found him. I was like, you are the one. And, he just did such an amazing job. So shout out to Josh Click for the audio for Rising Up.
When I was listening to the audio snippets, I was like, this is the magistrate. I can't imagine anyone else being him. It's not even being the character, being in character. He is the magistrate. I absolutely felt that when I listened to the snippets. So Josh, kudos, man. That was amazing. And I'm happy that you were able to come on, Tanya. I'm so excited. And here's to bringing more awareness to your books.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Phoebe, for having me. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully influencing other people with my novels, because I just think they're fun and they're important. So thank you again. I appreciate it. Hi, this is Tanya Ross. You're listening to me on Alternative Twist Radio. I want to let you know that you can find my books, Rising Up and Facing Off, both on Amazon. Thanks again to Alternative Twist Radio for having me as a guest today.
Thanks for watching, guys. Please share, like, and subscribe to our channel, and find us on all of our social media, links in our bio. Thanks.